my name's Rachel and today we're talking about The Dare by Harley LaRue, a spicy book I've seen recommended on Booktok repeatedly, and a book that Natalie and I found at the book exchange at Booknet Fest, and she flipped through it during prom, and this was her reaction, as you can see. This is written by the same Harley LaRue who wrote Her Soul to Take, which is a very popular book on dark romance TikTok. I got the guts to actually read The Dare, yet I wasn't prepared nonetheless. There are some terms you might want to be familiar with if you're going to understand this book. Terms like this, and this, and this. Some of you may be familiar with these terms, but we're going to go over some things while I discuss what happened in the book for those who aren't familiar. Learning new lingo is something I've been passionate about, as I've been learning Portuguese using today's sponsor, Babel. Babel is one of the top language learning apps in the world, and it has lessons using real-life conversations that are scientifically proven to help you start learning a new language in 3 weeks. Babel's lessons are created by over 650 real language learning experts to help you learn real practical conversations in a different language, which I am proof of, as it has been helping me in that now I understand hilarious memes in Portuguese that my best friend sends to me. Babel's lessons are designed in a way that helps you retain the information well and have a good understanding of things like sentence structure, which is important so that you know how to ask for things without sounding like a fool. Babel has this great review section so you can go over everything that you've learned previously. The review section has speaking, listening, writing, and flashcards. Repetition is key in learning anything, including a new language, be it spicy terms or Portuguese. So I'm currently on lesson 3, learning about recipes and ingredients, and also like measurements, like how much of things, so grams, liters, etc. Você tem 125 gramas de manteiga.
Você tem 125 gramas de manteiga?
Eu preciso de 1 litro de leite e 1 quilo de farinha.
Eu preciso de 1 litro de leite e 1 quilo de farinha.
And if I want to do my review, I can do listening, speaking, flashcards, or writing. We will do listening.
Em frente a.
In frente a is in front of.
É melhor pegar o metrô.
It is better to take the subway. I got it! Babel teaches you language in a practical way. So it prepares you to have real conversations about everything from personal life to business to talking to your friends about spicy books. Whether you want to learn Portuguese or Dutch or Indonesian or Norwegian, you can get 60% off of your subscription by clicking the link below or using the QR code on screen. Get yourself started today. Maybe someday I'll even be able to read a spicy book in Portuguese. I'm working on it. I've started reading short stories. You can get started today. Click that link below, and thank you so much to Babel for sponsoring today's video. I'm going to give you the content warnings for The Dare, and then we're just going to go in blind, just like I did. I had no idea what this was about. I just knew that it was very popular and very spicy, like the green curry that I had at the farmer's market this weekend. And yet I was still not prepared for the spice level, both in this book and in that curry. Absolutely kicked my ass. Went in blind. Riding a bike. No helmet. Alright, the content note says some content within this book may be disturbing or triggering for some readers. Reader discretion is advised. Subjects include references to childhood abuse, bullying, mental health, specifically anxiety, and drug use. This book contains graphic sexual scenes, including fetish, kink, and BDSM-related activities. Any character depicted in a sexual scene is at least 18 years of age. This book is not to be used as a resource for sexual education or as an informational guide to sex or BDSM. The activities depicted within this book are dangerous and are not meant to represent realistic expectations of BDSM or fetish-related activities. Please be aware that this book depicts erotic humiliation, degradation. Does it ever? Oh boy. Knife play, consensual non-consent, orgasm denial, boot worship, impact play, clowns, group sexual activities, bodily fluids, specifically saliva, blood, bondage, and public play. So there are terms, I mentioned before, there's terms in the BDSM sphere, like BDSM itself, RAC, CCCC. Again, I think I want to point out that this book specifically says it is not an educational resource. Fiction is not typically an educational resource. It can help you have a basic understanding of things. Even though I've said that certain books can be an educational resource, I think that fiction books are typically a jumping off point. If you're interested in educational stuff, there are tons of people who are doing that work to educate you on the topic of kink And if you are looking for somebody who's particularly in the book talk space and the kink space, doing both at the same time, I cannot recommend highly enough Ray Douglas. I'll leave some of her TikToks down below. I have learned a lot from her. Okay, let's get into it. Oh my God, I cannot believe I have to read some of these lines out loud. Okay, let's begin. The beginning of this book was rough. We start out with our main character, Jessica, who is 1 year post-graduating high school. She is in the summer, she is just off her first year of college, and she's going to a party with people that she used to go to high school with. And part 1 is called The Game. A lot of things change after high school. Straight A students become deadbeats, shy nerds are suddenly married with kids, guys who swore they were going to join the NFL end up joining the Marines instead. Oh my gosh, that is so true about high school. So the beginning of this, again, is real rough. There's a lot that I was like, I would change so many lines here. And also, I just felt like we were really hammering the reader over the head with the idea that Jessica was a mean bully in high school and that she was mean to certain kids who were like the goth kids. And I'm like, okay, we're really just, shoving it down the reader's throat. I feel like there was a little bit more of a subtle way to do this. So she goes into this gated neighborhood, but in order to get inside the gated neighborhood, you have to pass through like a security, and like the security guy is like, kind of hitting on her. And then she notices, she's in the car with her friend, and she notices that behind them is Manson Reed, but not before we hear her outfit. And I felt like we were really just being a little bit much in the outfit description of her. This is a Halloween party. Oh wait, we're not in the summer. We're on I forgot. Why did I think this was happening in summer? It says it was late October, Halloween to be exact. So it was October 31st. Okay, great. My sheer white bra would have shown off my nipple piercings if it wasn't for the pasties I'd slapped on underneath. And if I happened to bend over in my short satin skirt, people would be getting a view of my thong. And it says that her and her friend are dressed up as angels. Our angel wings were small, made of white feathers, clipped to the back of our bras. I was getting really tired of this old perv, the security guard, trying to make small talk. I was like, oh, okay, we're just shifting right to, okay, sure. So she notices that Manson Reed is right behind them in his truck. And she's like, surely the guy throwing this party, Daniel, would not have invited Manson Reed. Ugh, I hate him. So gross. No way has Daniel's invite standards dropped that low. Literally everyone from high school is freaked out over Manson, except maybe his weird little friend group. No one's going to forget the kid who almost stabbed someone, even if it has been over a year.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in, and I don't want to fit in.
And then her friend is like, didn't you and Manson have a thing? She's like, no, we made out in the bathroom once. That's not a thing. And it notes that her boyfriend at the time, Kyle, of course his name is Kyle, thought it was a thing. And so Kyle had confronted him and Manson pulled a knife on him.
What the fuck is up, Kyle? No, what did you say, dude? What the fuck, dude? Step the fuck up!
So I just want to point out that we're really choosing particular names here. The name Kyle, that's just funny, honestly. But the name Manson, like Charles Manson, Marilyn Manson, I just hate it. I hate it. Also, did you have like a goth crowd in high school? Because while I was definitely a weird kid, I was not part of that particular weird group. We literally called them the Dark Cloud because in the courtyard of my high school, they would all hang out in this one area and it was just a group of black. Again, I was not cool in high school, but yeah, they really got a lot of shit. I wonder where they all are now. So it mentions that he had run with the goth crowd, the skaters, and even the anime kids. He'd somehow managed to get his foot in every reject group possible. And it says that she had been a stuck-up little cheerleader and she was Manson's biggest bully, but Manson would tease her back. I wasn't really sure if it was normal to develop a crush on my nemesis, but one thing led to another, and then Kyle found out that I'd actually kissed Mason. It was social suicide for me, but it was a great way to piss off my ex. I tugged Manson into the bathroom 4 days after Kyle and I broke up and made out with him against the cold tile wall. And it says that Manson looks like he'd be into killing small animals, her friend says. And I'm like, oh, I don't like that stereotype. His whole little group freaked me out. That guy, Vincent, used to talk about being a fucking Satanist. And so she stops listening to her friend and it says, I zoned her out as she went on. I zoned her out. Wouldn't it be I zoned out as she went on? I don't know. Is that correct? I don't even know. Manson was a tall, slim guy, and he looked even taller in his tight, ripped jeans and lace-up leather boots. He was wearing a black t-shirt. I'm shocked. This is shocking. And some kind of metal and leather harness that had 3 silver buckles across his chest. Ooh, this is just hilarious. Of course he is. He'd had a mohawk in high school, but now his dark brown hair was slicked back. He put on some muscle since I'd last seen him. He had one white contact in, giving an eerie look to his face, his other eye appearing black in contrast. I gulped as he passed, unable to look away, unable to blink. She starts thinking about how when her ex-boyfriend had confronted Manson in high school about how they had made out, Manson had pulled a knife on Kyle, and then Kyle had gotten Manson in trouble. When they took Manson away, there was something scary about the way he looked. He hadn't been afraid. He'd come that day knowing what was going to happen and pulled a knife on 6'3" Kyle Baggins. Not Baggins! Not Baggins! And his jock friends. I'd wanted to kiss him again as I saw him escorted off. I wanted to text him when I found out he'd been expelled. I wanted to tell him I was proud he had defended himself, that Kyle had deserved the scare, and that I didn't blame him for bringing the knife. I never did. I had a reputation to uphold, and Manson Reed didn't fit into it. Again, the beginning of this is rough. And then it name drops a song that I'm not familiar with. The thumping bass of a live DJ pounded through my chest, playing Not in Love by Crystal Castles as I rang through the doorbell. What is that song? Anyway, apparently a mom is here, which the stuff that happens after like this first part, I'm like, I don't know how an adult was present. Well, an adultier adult was present and this was still going on, but all right, I guess. But the scene sounds a little familiar. So she gets in the house, Daniel's house, where the party's being held, and she goes in and it says it was only seconds before a middle-aged woman with bleach blonde hair and a glass of sangria flung open the door.
Hey, how are my best girlfriends? Hey, Mrs. George.
Oh my God, Jessica, she screeched, wrapping me in a tight hug that squished me against her fake tits. And I'm like, this is literally that scene from Mean Girl.
Make sure you check out her mom's boob job. They're hard as rocks.
And Ashley, oh my God, welcome ladies. And it says she was the literal definition of a cool mom.
I just want you to know, if you need anything, don't be shy. Not like a regular mom, I'm a cool mom.
Okay, she's shocked to see Manson drinking with Daniel. Why was he surrounded by people who wouldn't have looked twice at him in high school? I'd made out with him and then immediately got back with the guy who'd been bullying him since freshman year. I teased him relentlessly, spread rumors about him, laughed at him, made life hell for him and his friends. If that didn't make me an asshole, I didn't know what would. All I'd done was kiss him, and he kissed me back. I'd spent way too much time since then trying to figure out why. Why Manson Reed? We're going to find out, and the answer is going to be degradation king. It hadn't been because his lips were surprisingly soft when I kissed him. He'd wrapped his hand around my throat, and my heart had fluttered for a second. No, it hadn't been because of any of that at all. It was just petty high school shit that we were better off forgetting. Doesn't seem like you've forgotten. So they're playing beer pong, which I don't know if you guys know this, but my husband is like a beer pong master. He hasn't played in years, but watching him is like watching professional sports. He's so good at it. So in the years of him being like out of high school, like 18 to right before we had kids, there was a lot of beer pong. He's very good at it. Shout out Carlos. I don't know. There's something sexual about beer pong now for me personally. I'm sorry. Anyway, that's what's about to happen, is beer pong is about to get very sexual very fast. So she goes up and Manson says, I want to play against just her. No doubles, just me and her. He says, we're going to do drink or dare. Same house rules, except you make it in one of your opponent's dare cups. They have the option to do your dare instead of losing the cup. Any dare you want, no boundaries. And I'm not going to lie to you, all of that in the beginning was rough. This is where it starts to get good. The crowd begins to cheer, drink or dare, drink or dare. I hope you're ready to be humiliated, Manson. Oh, but you're already used to humiliation, aren't you? He's like, oh, so you do remember my name. I'm flattered, Jessica. Miss Popular remembers who I am. Oh, wow. I guess I was such a good kisser that you can't forget my name. He's like, how's Kyle? She says, I wouldn't know. He's like, oh, that's so sad. So she makes a cup into one of his dare cups and she's like, I dare you to flush your own head down the toilet. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna drink. And he tells her, we're all adults here. You should have grown up after high school. Well, he makes it in one of her dare cups and he says, my dare is you kiss my boots. Oh no. This got sexual so fast. I mean, this is a short book, so like it makes sense that it got sexual fast, but like, Jesus. So what, like just one little kiss? He's like, nope, get on your knees, get your face down on the ground and kiss my boots for 60 seconds. Do it. So she does it, which was the first hint that this girl has a degradation kink that she's just now starting to unpack. He says things like, you look a lot better on your knees, Jess. And she's like, enjoying your revenge? He says, it's just a dare. It's just a game. And she's like, no, this is more than that. I know it is. This was payback for every time I'd laughed at him, every time I'd whispered about him behind his back. I'm like, man, let's not forget, you chose the dare rather than the drinking. It's a choice. And so she's next to his boot and she smells the leather and it says, I was suddenly horrifyingly aware that I was having a reaction to this that I wasn't expecting. I was getting wet. My pussy felt so warm. It was as if she was blushing too. I don't like that line. I don't like it at all. Someone might see a damp spot when I was in this humiliating position, and that made my blush go cold with horror. Why was this turning me on? Good for her, honestly. The feeling of embarrassment was turning into lust, and suddenly I was thinking about Manson pressing the sole of his boot down on my face. So then she finishes making out with his shoe, which, no, you can't convince me that that's hot. I would never. Shoes go in bathrooms. Public ones. Nah. No, I will not. You can't convince me to do that in a sexual context. Good for her, but never me. So she gets up, she walks back to her place in the beer pong, and her friend's there, and she says, you looked hot as fuck doing it, but you are really red. So they go back and forth, and she's starting to lose. And he makes it in 2 cups, which I forget how. He's like, it's for 2 cups. It's gonna be a hard one. She's like, you don't scare me. Says, I like that thong you're wearing. Take it off and give it to me. Oh boy. I reached up under my skirt and yanked down my thong. As I did, I could feel my arousal clinging to the fabric. Even glancing at them briefly, I noticed there was a spot of wetness. And so she chucks her underwear at him. He says, thanks for the trophy. And she's like, I'm trying to sound disgusted, but I'm really into this. What was wrong with me? I was literally being degraded in front of friends and strangers, and I liked it. Not the sexual awakening during beer pong. Good for you. So then he says, at her next dare, he says, take your next shot with your own underwear in your mouth. And she says, fuck you. On her next dare, she says, I dare you to give me back my thong. And then he just drinks his cup. I'm like, you didn't think that was gonna happen? So she loses. Before she loses, he says, if you make this shot, which she doesn't make, if you make it, and you win, you win. But if you don't, you lose. You have to be my slave for the rest of the night. You do whatever I order you to for the rest of the night or until you go home. Any and every order, you do it. No avoiding me. If you agree, you stick by my side. And she thinks, fuck him, fuck this crowd, and fuck my vagina for betraying me every step of the way. I think fuck your vagina is kind of what we're getting to here, ma'am. And so she throws, she misses, it lands in the grass, and he says, how's it feel to be a loser? I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? He'd gotten to me. He'd actually gotten to me, and the worst part was I enjoyed it. No, not enjoyment. Part 2, The Dare, which is also the name of the book, if you had forgotten. What kind of person would accept a dare like that and actually carry through? Being Manson's slave, obeying his every word, it was ridiculous. Is it? And he's like, you're actually gonna do this? She says, yeah, you dared me. What am I gonna do? Laugh it off? You really think you're gonna spend the night doing everything I tell you? Seriously. Again, yeah, unless you were just making it up to fuck with me. If you can't handle me, I'll gladly go. No, he shook his head. I can handle you. I thought at this point I would hate him. We're in part 2 and I don't hate him yet. I'm just saying, I hate her a little bit, but you know, she's a bully. I think I'm supposed to, but I don't hate him yet. That's weird because normally in dark romance, I'm like, I want to fucking kill this guy. I want to jump into these pages, run across these words, jump up and stab, stab, stab. Wow, that got violent super fast. I'm more concerned if you can handle it. I don't think you realize what you're in for. I'm not afraid of you, Manson Reed. Whatever you've got, I can take it. And he says, you might be looking for mercy sooner than you think. Okay. Her friend's like, let's just bail. We'll hang for 10 minutes and then we'll go. And she's like, I am not bailing. She's like, Jessica, are you serious? The normal logical part of me was screaming that I wasn't about to let this weirdo treat me like his personal pet, but the dark, needy part of me was insisting something very different. It was telling me that Manson's condescending tone sounded hot and his confidence was sexy and that running to obey his summoning would feel so good. Lead with the vag. Sometimes it happens. So he's like, come here. right now. Tie my shoelace. And her friend's like, what the fuck? And she's like, oh, I'm gonna do it. I was dared. I have to do it, Ashley. I'm sorry. It's the dare. It's legally binding, actually. And so she's being a brat, and it says, being a brat doesn't change you're still obeying me, Jess. Acting like it's such a goddamn chore for you doesn't change that you're still doing it. Pretending you don't like it won't make it go away. Keep it up and you'll only manage to earn yourself a good old-fashioned attitude adjustment. I know what he's gonna do to her. He's gonna have her sit down and write sentences like we used to do in school. Remember that? Sentence, I will be good. I will obey, Manson read 50 times. Hot. From now on, when I give you an order, you respond with, yes, master. Keep it up, Jess. I know you need some discipline in your life. You'll earn it soon enough. Those sentences are coming, Jess. Get your pencil ready. And her friend is like, bitch, are you into this? Because nothing is stopping you from just not following him. He can't force you to do shit. And then Jessica's like, you don't have to worry about me. But I'm a creep. Okay, I'm just gonna try this dare thing. Ashley's like, dare thing? You mean you're going to try the whole being his slave thing? Because that's like super kinky, you know. And she's like, and that's fine. Just let me know so that I know what we're doing. Thank God for Ashley. As opinionated as she was, she kept any judgments she passed to herself. We like a good friend. We like a good friend. Good for her. Good job, Ashley. No, what happened? Good job, Ashley. We like a good friend. He tells her, you can't drink anymore. You're done drinking. But I'm not. Crawl into the kitchen, grab my beer, and crawl back and remember your goddamn manners. And I'm thinking, how is she gonna crawl back with a beer? Is she gonna like put it on her back? You can't really carry a beer bottle in your teeth. That's dangerous. You are crazy if you think I'm gonna crawl through this goddamn party to get you a goddamn beer in front of all these goddamn people. But you're not walking away. You're standing here arguing with me, throwing a tantrum, trying to make me change my mind and take back my order. I'm not taking it back. You're gonna do it, Jess. You're gonna obey because you want to, no matter how much you try to hide it. So what we're doing here is pointing out again and again that Jessica is ultimately in control of the situation. Despite the fact that Manson is the one giving orders, Jessica has full freedom here and is fully in control of the situation by saying, this stops now, I'm leaving, there's nothing preventing her from ending this right now. She's in full control, which is kind of a huge thing in the Dom sub community, is that ultimately the Dom knows that the sub is in control. Again, check out Ray on TikTok if you would like to learn more about Booktok King Talk. Go crawl and get my beer, Jessica, before I put you up the wall and spank that cute little ass of yours until you figure out how to behave. Whoa. You heard me loud and clear. We're not in high school anymore. If you want to keep playing this game, you have to realize the rules are a little different now. So sorry about my manners, master. I'll go get your beer at once, master. Oh yeah, and fuck you, master. Rudeness carries consequences, Jessica. Hurry up. And it says, my arousal is basking in the humiliation. So she is learning very quickly that the more they do this, obviously has a degradation kink. I pushed and pushed, determined to see Manson reach the edge of his patience. I'd seen it that day he'd gotten expelled when he'd finally pulled a knife on the assholes. That was the Manson I had to experience. I wanted to see him make good on his threats. How the hell also was I supposed to crawl and carry his beer? So she crawls in there, tries to get a beer, and she obviously figures out what I assumed at the beginning. How the fuck are you gonna do that? She's like, fuck this. I'm just gonna drink the beer and walk back in there. I thought I gave you an order, Jess. You found your feet awfully quick. Oh, right. Oopsie. Sorry about the whole no drinking thing. Also, sorry about the no crawling or no walking thing. Sorry, my shit got unplugged and now I'm... Fuck! Okay, alright, we're back. We are back. It's funny as hell to watch you struggle with yourself to save your pride by cursing and acting angry, but it really defeats the purpose of the game. I need to see better obedience from you, and well, I think there's only one way to get it. So then she starts to get self-conscious, which this is a normal thing that happens to humans who are doing like Dom sub activity. Look, I'm sorry, okay? I'm sorry. Doing this is weird. And he says, you're doing it willingly, Jess. I'm not going to accept any of the excuses you come up with for being such a brat. I won't tolerate that behavior. I think you want to be good for me, Jess. You don't know anything about me. Maybe I just like being a bitch to you. I know you're careful with everyone who how everyone perceives you. I know you don't like to let that better than thou mask slip for even a second. For your own sake, I have to rip away that mask of yours. The best way to do that is to punish you until your silly pride doesn't matter anymore. The best way is to make you cry. So this is where I was like, okay, this could go either way. I'm a little nervous here because is this ultimately going to be like he is not offering her like consensual activity, or are we doing consensual activity? I don't need to be punished. That's stupid. It's exactly what you need, Jess. What's even better is that as much as you're dreading it right now, you're still going to follow me. So ultimately, it is up to her. She is choosing to follow. You're gonna follow and accept your punishment like a good girl, aren't you? Ugh, I don't like good girl. It's not one of my things. I understand it's a lot of people's things. It's just, I don't like it. I think that has to do with Fundy trauma though, so I'm not like prescribing that onto everybody else. It's just personally, no. I couldn't resist diving deeper. I couldn't resist getting more of this feeling. If he ordered me to do the most utterly degrading public act he could think of, I'd do it. I do it because I wanted that twisting in my belly to tighten and the heat from inside me to become ablaze. I do it because it was the closest thing to freedom I'd felt. No room for pride, no place for carefully constructed laughter, no fake smiles, no pretending. So the thing about like kink and BDSM, which again, I am not an expert on, but from what my understanding of it is that it's not even always sexual. It's really about like playing and like lowering your inhibitions. And you're really like playing out this idea that allows you to like learn new things about yourself. And it's like a real example of like freedom of expression. And again, it doesn't even have to be sexual. And so he kind of explains this to her saying, you want to explore something that's probably pretty new to you, something that's giving you feelings you didn't expect, something you're enjoying, even though you don't think you're supposed to. Because again, there's a lot of like negative perceptions around kinks, like degradation kinks. So he takes her into another room, and I was actually very surprised at this scene because I thought that it did really well of like setting the stage. I don't really know how to articulate this. Okay, so in this room that they are, I think, alone in the background, there's a horror movie playing. And also you're experiencing this thing that's like kind of a rush, which also happens when you're watching a horror movie. So we're doing these two things at once where Harley LaRue wrote this so that Jessica is experiencing this like heightened state, and also in the room another heightened state is happening. Do you know what I mean? So I thought that was very smart because you're experiencing these things where your blood is pumping on two different levels, or for two different reasons, I guess. So he tells her to kiss his boot again, clean it with your tongue. What the hell was wrong with me? Since when did something like boots turn me on? It had never even crossed my mind, never worked its way into any fantasy I touched myself to. So this is the thing, is like when you find a new thing, like new kink unlocked is kind of like a joke that we make. When you find a new thing, it can be kind of scary, especially if it's something that you feel like, you know, this is taboo, this has negative perceptions around it. I've been told a lot of negative stereotypes about it. And you start to internalize that and feel like, you know, I'm gross and nasty and disgusting, or I'm weird. And this is sort of like turning this whole thing on its head, where Jessica is obsessed with the way that she is perceived and took a lot out on, you know, other people who were not so obsessed with the way that they were perceived. And now she's doing things that are considered weird. I thought that this was very smart. This was a very smartly written scene. I know you're all shocked. I'm going to spoil it for you now. I gave this 4 stars. I know I reel you in with the idea that I hate everything I read. I know. I don't. This is a 4-star book. I know you're all shocked. This actually turned out to be quite good. That beginning sucked. We have only gone up from there. And like this scene, I was so pleasantly surprised by. This scene alone made me think maybe I need to read other Harley LaRue books. Sorry, moving back on. There was a tap on my head, something pressing me down and keeping me there. Within moments, I recognized the textured feeling of a boot sole and realized Manson had pressed his opposite foot on top of my head. Okay, so she licks his boot, he takes a drink of beer, and then he spits beer into her mouth. Then she's like, okay, I'm feeling, and again, like she's going to have these feelings arise where she's very nervous. This is all new to her. It's not new to him. So he's sort of having to, like, he's putting on this persona of being dominant. But whenever she's starting to feel like I'm out of my league here, I don't really know what I'm doing, he offers her options, offers her this idea that, you know, I think you're into this, so like, let's keep going until you want to just, if you want to leave, you can. Now, he sometimes does this while still having this like dom persona on, but he's still doing it. I think in the text, it's showing that he's still offering her options and showing her like, hey, it's okay to be horny. Like, I was really surprised by this. I think that this was incredibly smart. So she says, I want my underwear back. And he says, why? She says, just give it back. He says, I need a reason. She's like, I'm literally afraid that I'm going to drip all over the carpet.
Get your boots and your coat for this wet ass P-word.
And he's like, oh, you're enjoying your punishment so much. It's making you wet. So cute. Now I have to punish you even more. I can't have you enjoying yourself that much. So he has her sit on his lap and he asks her, do you understand what a safe word is? She said, yes. He says, yours is red. Call it if you need to. Although now that I'm seeing how much of a little masochist you are, I don't think you'll be calling it. You know what you deserve. He's still solidified they have a safe word. You've been a bad girl, Jessica. Oh no, I'm cringing.
Hello. Not only am I cringing, but YouTube is too, because they keep shmee monetizing
watching this video for this specific part of the video. Minutes 28:55, 29:48. Whoever the person is who has to review my video and said, hey, this isn't gonna fly in the YouTube ad partner program. I understand. Here is my attempt at trying to fix it. And for all of you watching, this is the reason why I am going to bleep out a bunch of things. I'm sorry, I'm doing my best. A very bad girl, you deserve to be punished. I can't. And she's like, I just want an order. Like, if we're being serious, I just want to finish. So like, could we just like skip to that part? And he's like, you don't deserve that right now. I'm gonna laugh. Oh no. Okay. I can't help but laugh while reading this. I'm sorry. You deserve to have your aching all night. You deserve to have, oh my god, this made me wince. You deserve to have duct tape slapped over it so that you can't touch while I crush your pretty little under my boot. Whoa, we need to, no, that's too far. So then he goes to her and he's saying stuff at first like, your is cuter when your ass is red. Are you feeling scared now? It's all right, the door is shut. The music out there is so loud that you can scream and cry all you want, but you won't disturb anyone. And then he says, if you really don't want this, say so right now. You're safe to do that, I promise you. I mean, listen, she's new at this, and the fact that he established a safe word, says it's okay to be, like, still leans into the part that she likes about it, which is him being dominant while he's saying it, but then also says, also you're safe to like leave. You can go. You can just dip. Anytime. You are safe to do that. I'm so impressed. Listen, I was already like really impressed by the trigger warnings being thorough. Also saying this is not an educational resource. And while it's still not an educational resource, it's also, it still can be called a good example. I think that it's a good example that could be used elsewhere in a different educational resource, as in like this book on itself, not education. However, we can use this as an example in education if we are making a list of examples of how we have to establish safety and consent in kink. And I think Harley LaRue kind of nailed it, and I'm very, very pleasantly surprised. And she says, I'll use my safe word if I need to, but I want it. And again, while this is happening, also that horror movie is on in the background. So this is like, it's heightening what's happening, which was so smart. The final chase scene in the movie had begun. A woman ran through the empty halls of the hospital, limping, looking behind her with wide, terrified eyes as the killer made his slow, trudging way after her. He'd catch her eventually. They always did. So it's like, oh my god, my heart is beating so fast. Struggle all you need to. You won't get away. This is Manson, not the killer in the movie. You'll stay right here and take your punishment until you've learned your lesson. Manson was right in some twisted way. Putting all my strength into struggling and finding that it got me nowhere was a relief. So this is super normal in dom-sub interactions, where she is physically trying to get away and can't, but ultimately the power is all in her hands because all she needs to do is say her safe word and then she can leave at any time. So then he spanks the shit out of her and then eventually says, please stop, I'm sorry, please, Manson, I'm sorry. He says, are you really? You'll be a good girl, you'll obey. He helps her sit up, eased her back onto his lap, and then he like holds her in an embrace and says, are you all right? And she says, I am. He says, I can't believe you actually let me. And I'm like, oh, this is shockingly good. Because now we're like checking in afterward. Because after an interaction like that, after a scene is played out like that, because what they did is they just played out a scene. There's sort of like a come down where you have to sort of check in with each other. And there's a lot of like Ray and everybody in the kink space talks a lot about aftercare. Natalie from Weirdo Book Club, every time she talks about kink in books, in these dark romance books that she reads, she talks a lot about aftercare. So like this is this scene's, version of aftercare where we're checking in. And then after that, he moves back into, the dominant mode. Are you going to be a good girl from now on then? No more sass? And she's like, I could be, but it might help if you fucked me. And he's like, oh, I can't make it that easy for you. That's no fun. I like watching you struggle. And she's like, no, it would be fun. It would be quick. And he says, no, not yet. When I fuck you, if I do, it won't be some quick fuck on a couch. I'll make you scream. Whoa. He says, when I say no, it means no. Understand? You're going to be patient for me. Every time I order you to do something, it'll feel a little worse. You'll just have to take it. She says that's not fair. So he's also setting boundaries with her. And explaining like basic concepts to her, like, hey, you can't use your safe word to just get what you want. Your safe word is for your safety, while still maintaining like the persona. So he says, I can do whatever I want. I can make you suffer all night and never give you release. I can spank you again just because I like hearing you scream. And you do sound so pretty when you scream. She says, I'll call my safe word then. He says, Your safe word means that this stops. That's what it's for. It's not a way to force me to do what you want. It's a way to keep you safe. I was like, that is so smart. Part 3. The clowns. Did you forget that clowns were in this? Don't worry, I'm here to remind you. I wasn't prepared for just how awful it was to be horny with no hope of relief. We've all been there. She's noticing that Manson is friends with a lot of people. He seemed to know everyone, even the people that hadn't gone to our high school. Not only that, but they seemed to also really like him. People's faces lit up when they saw him. They spoke faster when they answered him. Seeing their enthusiasm actually made me feel proud. I was the one at his side. I was the one getting drinks for his friends. Then she notices another group enters the party. He notices that she's nervous. What's up? What's wrong? He says. Clowns. There's fucking clowns. 3 men were walking across the yard from the side gate, beers in hand, laughing and shoving one another. These weren't your typical bright circus clowns. They were jesters from hell. Oh no, not the insane clown posse. Just like I had with Manson, I gladly spent my senior year tormenting these 3 guys, watching Kyle push them around. Jason, Vincent, and Lucas, Manson's best friends. He says, "What's good, boys?" And they said, well, 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 if it isn't Jessica fucking Martin. This is a little cringe, but all right. The amused disdain in their eyes made it clear they hadn't forgotten what a bitch I'd been to them. Well, yeah, who could, Jessica? You're kind of the worst. Where's Kyle, Jess? Says Jason.
What the fuck is up, Kyle?
And she's like, oh, we broke up. Manson says, yeah, she's with me tonight. Well, fucking hell, man, you're not gonna share? She says, I'm not a piece of meat. And he's like, and Vincent says, a piece of meat would be tied up and hung from the ceiling, although I can certainly arrange that. Manson says, Vincent likes restraints. You know shit. Gathered that from context clues. Thank you. She's like, I'm too horny to function, so I'm gonna use the restroom. So she's in the bathroom flicking the bean. She's just trying to like get one orgasm just to tide her over for the rest of the night. So he busts into the bathroom, holds her hand up and says, what's this on your fingers, huh? Did you think you could just sneak off and do something naughty? Oh no, she's going on the naughty list at Christmas. Are you going to hurt me? She says, more than you can imagine. Do you remember your safe word? Ha! Do you remember your safe word? Says he's gonna hurt her. Make sure she remembers her safe word. Says to her, if I cross a line, you better damn well use it. Do you understand? So now that she understands that this is all fully within her control to stop at any moment she wishes, he says, I really wish I had my paddle on me. God, turning your ass black and blue with that sweet thing would have you obeying as you should. He owned a paddle. He literally owned instruments to inflict pain and humiliation. He was such a freak.
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
So then he puts her underwear in her mouth, has her bend over, face the wall, and she's in high heels, so that's awkward. And then he starts to get, this was a little weird because he was like, he's talking about his experience being bullied by her in high school while they're in a sexual scenario. I spent the most hormone-fueled years of my life wanting to touch you, Jess, wanting to, never daring. I learned not to even look at you. You knew how badly I wanted you, so if you think I'm not going to savor every moment of this, if you think I don't have the discipline to wait for even my own satisfaction, you're dead wrong. He tells her to fuck herself on her own fingers, and then when she gets close, he tells her to stop. And he laughs and he laughs at her. I don't know why I'm laughing at her too. You'd rather obey me than get yourself off, even though it frustrates you, you'd still rather obey. That's good, much better. Then he puts her fingers in his mouth and he says, and it says that he's savoring every drop of her juices. And I'm like, oh, permission to speak to all of you romance writers. I hereby demand that you stop using the word juices. It's making me ill. So then they're very close and she says, do it. I demanded, kiss me. She's still very much in control of this situation. The metal straps on his harness dug into my chest and the pain made me want to cling to him harder. Fucking harness. I can't imagine anything that's sexy. Nothing's coming to mind. Everything is cringe. So then they are hurting each other a little bit. She scratches his neck. She bites his lip. She's making him bleed. You made me bleed, he said, and you didn't make me bleed, I said. His eyebrows shot up. Is that a problem? She says, I expected more. Hell, when you found me here, I thought you'd make me cry. So again, they're checking in with each other after each scene that they play out together, which is great. And he says, is that what you want, Jess, to make, for him to make her cry? And she says, I want to slap you. Do you? Why? You like seeing me in pain? Go on, slap me, I dare you. See what happens. He didn't need to tell me twice. So they've just set up a scenario where she's like, I want to slap you. Right after he said, when you found me in here, I thought you'd make me cry. So she has just set up a scenario where she's like, I want to slap you. And then in turn, you make me cry. So she slaps him and he says, now I have to make you cry, Jessica. Again, she's fully in control. She has set up this particular scenario. And I thought that was good that she set that up. where she verbalized that's what she wanted to do. And they didn't need to overstate it. Like, she's starting to ease into like being more comfortable saying what she wants and what she wants to happen in return. So he takes her to a room, and I was surprised at the character development here. So it says he's lighting candles around the room, fills it with a flickering orange glow. Very convenient mood lighting. How lucky. And he says, yeah, I have a bit of weakness for candles. Mrs. Peters says the aromatherapy will help my anxiety. Mrs. Peters was fake tits lady from earlier, the Mean Girls knockoff. And she's like, I'm confused. He says, the bedroom is mine. Nobody's going to bother us. And she's like, this is your room. You live here. She says, yeah. He says, yes, I started living here after I turned 18. Mrs. Peters is a social worker. She was my social worker. My mom wanted to keep custody of me, but not as much as she wanted to keep my dad around. I'd always planned to leave the day I turned 18. I wasn't about to stick around and get beat on any longer than I had to. I went to Mrs. Peters for advice, but instead of advice, I got a place to stay. Everyone in town knew Manson's dad was a mess, leaving when he fought with his wife and then coming back after a few months. I'd never bothered to ask. I'd assumed all his bruises were from school. She says, I'm sorry. And he says, I don't want to talk about it right now. Maybe someday if you actually want to hear about it, just not now. And she says, someday. He says, someday. Wait, I'm not scaring you away? And she says, no, you're scaring me, but I like being scared. He says, you really ran with the wrong crowd in high school. You know that? You would have fit right in with the freaks. Yeah, but hopefully, like, I mean, that would have been, you're under 18. Please be told. I mean, like, even though I was having sex in high school, like, I wasn't having, like, this kind of sex in high school. So, I don't know. I'm just so worried about, like, teens doing stuff before they're ready. Anyways, he says, you like scary things. You like pain. You get turned on from being treated like a slave. She's like, all right, she tries to get him to go back into the scene, the scenario that they're playing out. Because now they're like having a vulnerable moment outside of the dom sub interactions that they've been previously doing. So now she's like basically trying to tell him like, let's get back into the role play bit without saying that because she doesn't have that language, right? This is all new to her. So she says, you said you'd make me cry, remember? You're getting distracted. Well then, out from the shadows pop up his clown friends. Miss us, Jess? Oh no. It's like a fucking Jack in the Box. He is telling her like, I share. Are you into that? Like, and says, do you want to leave or do you want to face your fear and be a good girl for me? If there's a doubt in your mind, if it's too much, they all know your safe word. I wouldn't let a soul touch you that wouldn't respect it if you want the game to stop. Got it? And he tells her that if her mouth is occupied, you need to tap 3 times on their legs and they'll stop immediately. So then they get to play out this scene in, for them where they're getting like vengeance for her being a bully to them in high school. What did we used to tell you, Jess? You fuck with one of us, you fuck with all of us. And if you want to fuck one of us, you fuck all of us. Cringe. This is channeling Nikki St. Crow in we're the lost boys and there's plenty of lost pussy to be found. I can't stand it. So that's cringy. Gives blowjobs to basically everybody except Manson. And then before they leave, one of them says, be a good girl for Daddy Manson, Jess. No, cringe. Don't like it. He tells them all to leave. And then part 4 is called The Knife. Are you scared? You should be. We get another song name drop. It says, the sounds of the party outside seem so far away, another world entirely. The music could be heard faintly through the walls, hugging and kissing by Big Black Delta. So I think this was here to try to set the mood, but the way that the horror movie set the mood and made like the scene heightened was because you didn't even have to say what movie it was, you just said what was happening. It doesn't work so well when we just say, this is the song that's playing. He starts talking to her about the incident where he pulled a knife because he has his butterfly knife out and he's like, touching her in a sexual way, not cutting her, but touching her in a sexual way with the knife, which is going to get like even more so in a little bit. And he's talking about his experience where he pulled that knife on Kyle. He says, they went on and on about how I tried to kill them. I never even tried to hurt them, Jess. I don't like to hurt people. Not like that. And she's like getting a better understanding of his feelings about that incident that she caused. So then he gets into, Dom mode and he says, do you remember your safe word? He has reinstated this over and over, wants to make sure that she knows that she is safe to leave at any time, wants to make sure she knows what word she needs to say in order to leave at any time. It had only been minutes or seconds, hours, an eternity since he'd last asked me that, but I understood now that my confirmation reassured him. This is good shit. That's good shit. Suddenly the knife was no longer pressed to my throat. His hand disentangled from my hair and wrapped around my neck, squeezing. I told you I'd make you cry. Jessica Martin begs for the freak, but I guess in some way you were always begging, weren't you? You begged for my attention in the only way you knew how, by being a bullying little bitch. So again, she set this scenario. She wants him to make her cry. She said, basically, I'm going to slap you and I want to know what happens. You said you'd make me cry, so I'm going to slap you and let's see what happens. He puts the knife down and he says, I'm going to drip candle wax. Okay, get it together, bitch. I'm going to drip candle wax on your vagina. And she, at this point, is literally begging him to let her finish and have an orgasm. So candle wax happens. She's fine with it. It bites a little at first and then it goes away. If you've ever spilled candle wax on yourself, you know it burns for like 2 seconds and then it goes away. So that's a pretty common thing in like kink play. Well, then he's like, all right, I'm done with that. Now I want to, So he starts to use his mouth on her. And he doesn't let her finish. And then he said, wait, does he? I think he let her finish. Okay, a series of events is happening where he's like not letting her finish. He's using candle wax on her. And she says, I don't think I can take it. And he says, if it's a limit for you, I won't do it. You can change your mind if it's too much, whether that's now or 5 minutes from now or 10. Got it? And so he is doing all of this stuff, but still checking in with her repeatedly. You can say stop. You can use your safe word, even if, you know, it's now or it's in 5 minutes. This is completely under your control. So then he tells her, I'm gonna fuck you with my knife.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never.
With the handle, not the actual blade. You're going to get off on this knife, Jess, and I'm going to hold you open nice and still so you don't get hurt. Personally could never, but she's into it. And she, oh my God, I can't believe I have to say these things out loud on the internet. She finishes and it says, even squirting for me? Oh my God, if my mother knew what I do for a living. Oh, so then she finishes, he's done. And it says, I watched quietly as he uncuffed me, easing down my arms and rubbing my shoulders so the stiffness in my aching muscles, by the way, she was handcuffed to the bed, was pushed away under his hands. He says to her, are you okay? Talk to me. Not the checking in aftercare. This absolute fucking freak had given me the best orgasms of my life and he wasn't even done. So he's continuing on his, stuff. Now that they've ended that scene, he moves into a different one where he's actually going to like have penetrative sex with her. And he says to her, do you like that? Instant unhorny. I can't deal with that phrase. I used to actually, oh my God, I had a friend in high school and we had a class with this one guy who hit on literally everybody. And one day I leaned over to my friend and I said, I swear to God, you know what he seems like to me? He looks like a guy who says, do you like that during sex? I don't want it. Don't say that. Don't. Instant, just shriveled, unhorny. My note just says, do you like that? Throw up emoji. So they have penetrative sex. He finishes, she finishes, they do dirty talk during, good for them. He, at the end, says he turned on the lights, helped me clean up, pulled the wet comforter off his bed so we could lay on the cool sheets. Moments of easy silence passed as I closed my eyes again. Then his voice softly said, was that good for you? Which I don't like, do you like that during sex, but was that good for you is checking in after to genuinely ask, was it good for you so that, can I do better the next time? That shit is great because that's just good communication. And she says, were the orgasms like did you not get clued in? And he's like, oh, then can we do it again? I like how his like Dom personality and his personality are two very different things. Good for him. In the epilogue, it says that, they come downstairs. It's the morning. Her friend Ashley is like, I'm fucking hungover. We need to go get some greasy food. And she's like, do you want to come with us? He says, no, I have to, help clean up because I live here. And it says, but breakfast some other time sounds like a good idea. And she says, oh, okay, next weekend. He says, be good. And she says, oh, I don't know about that. It's so hard to be good. He says, guess I'll have to keep teaching you then. What a pain. That was a little cringy in parts, but I am very pleasantly surprised with, this is a short book. This is only like 100 and some odd pages. And we actually did character development in a way that I was pleasantly surprised by. I mean, you really have to be efficient in such a small amount of pages. And we were, but like the representation of what it looks like to have that incredibly important communication in like sex, especially in like kink sex like this. I was so pleasantly surprised. I was so surprised. I'm really shocked and I'm so happy to tell you that I gave this 4 stars. I don't love the name Manson. I think some of the lines were really cringy, and at no point did I like Jessica, but I don't think I have to. The point was to talk about a person who, shitty people can be the main characters in books too, but she is a person who has a degradation kink. And you know what? That's great. Some people don't know that they have it or feel I might have it and need to see themselves reflected in the page as not being a weird, gross, unnatural, disgusting person, and need to see an example of what it looks like to do that safely and with consent and with respect, which it sounds like an oxymoron when you say like respect and degradation, but in this scenario it's not, and that's what it is. It's a scenario that you're playing out safely. Again, I really fucking hate the name Manson though. I think I don't like that. This is actually the first in a series. This is like a novella that starts a series called The Losers, and I might try it. I mean, the rest are like full-length books, so I don't know, I might try it. I think that Jessica continues to be a character throughout the series, if not the main character. So we'll see. I'm gonna try it, and tell me if you have read any Harley LaRue down below. If you made it this far, you can leave did they have one of those ping pong ball cups, the red Dixie cups? Leave a red Dixie cup down below, or a ball, either one. No clowns this time. I feel like I just did clowns recently. And let me know what book you feel does a good job of being an example of showing like respectful sexual interactions. I think that is so important, especially like in the like kink sphere, even when we're doing things like degradation kink. Again, it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's not. So let me know what your favorite like erotica is, because this is really just erotica. It's not, I don't think it's a dark romance. I think this particular book is an erotica. I'm not sure if the rest of them are dark romance or not. I don't really know much about the Loser series, but I know that Her Soul to Take, the other Harley LaRue series, is classified as a dark romance. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments and questions down below if you would like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I will see you next time. Bye! Hi, it's the end of the video, so I have to say thank you for being a friend to my Therapy Bills patrons, and those are Alexander, Ashley H, Astra, Astrid P, Brittany Bobitney, Call Me Kodiak, Cami, Choco's Trash for Japanese Mysteries and Thrillers, Chris the Horror Therapist, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emerald Dodge, Aaron with 2 E's, Eric, GalaxyBot, Jess, John E, Julie D, Kiari, Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie, Kate W, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lady Chips, Lemon Jelly, Lex, Lily B, Max B, Mommy Zami, Alice, Panoramic Demon, Peggy Lou, who trolls Rachel with her Patreon name, Rain, Reese, SJ, Sad Witch Bree, Samar, Scarlet, Shiny, SMK, Spoopy, Steph B, T Delegati, 2 Orbit, Urchin Audrey, White Raven 13, Zorvictia, Chai Guy, and Bibliobibuli Baby Dragon. Wow, that's a lot of bees. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend. I appreciate you. And last but not least, I have to say thank you for being a friend to my potato starch Marxist patrons, and those are Alejandra, Alicia, the Bane of Book Banners, hell yeah, Althea, Amanda D, Amanda, Andy, Angelica, Artie the Ninth, Ava, Ballads and Bookends, Beck, Blake Lemon Pants, Blythe, Bookish Brain Rot, Bookish by Jenna, Bree Caitlin, Kate B, Caitlin P, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Carly, Casper, Kate W, Catherine, Kathy, CJ, Clover's Mom, Colleen, Corwin, Cosmic, Darius, Danielle M, Darren, Desiree Michelle, Dilf Enthusiast, Dorian, Dorothea, Drive-By Thinker, E.T. Cosgrove, Ebby, Emily A, Emma, Emma K, Aaron, Ezra Moon, Fiona, Francis, Gadarn, Garrett, Hannah C, Harpy Kiro, Ilianaka, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, Jelly V, Jen Michelle, Gender Queer, Jenny G, Jessa Sue, Jill, Jojo Bookish, Kat, Catherine, Katie L, Kaylee C, Kayala, Kendra, Kitten, KMTB, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura G, Lauren G, Lazarus Ray, Library of Scars, Lindsay M, Lisa B, Lisa L, LP, Lou Siri, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Maddie, Madison, Man-Eating Plant, Marcella, Marquita, Megan, Malara, May, Molly, James, Natalie, Never, Nicole G, Nicole R, Nimeska, Nyan Binary, Owl, Paige P, Penelope G, Penny Chilling, Foxglove, Pondemonium, Queen Cereal. Oh my god, that's such a good name. God, I want Fruit Loops now. Rachel B, Reader Rising, Reba, Rebecca, Rebecca R, Ronnie, Rosie Thorns, Rowan, Sikoria, Sadie, Saintbringer, Sakyalume, Samantha, Sammy, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Sarah Z, Shamed, Shannon, Sean, Sisette, Talia, Tiana, Trashcan Teddy, Triple M, Tito Phoenix, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being here and for being a friend.